Maybe it talks about how I need to go through challenges to help build myself up. Sometimes maybe people just say bad things. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a test to help improve who you are, to stay strong even when there's adversity. And that's the way I'm saying about finding inner you, figuring out how to just keep on moving, even when it's good or bad, just to stay tall, not stay stagnant, but just stay tall and grow. Even though there's rocks trying to hit you, you got to continue, just keep going up, no matter what. So that's to answer that question. That's how I would explain it.
Malik's First Job Podcast, here to answer any questions that y'all ask. Financial literacy and resources. Parents and young people becoming bosses. CEOs, future leaders, entrepreneurs. Conferences and boardrooms getting sponsors secured. If you want generational wealth, Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip with information to help. Malik's First Job Podcast. Malik's Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Kerwin Phillip. Malik's First Job Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Generational wealth.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Kerwin Phillip here with another episode of the Malik's First Job Podcast, where we talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. I'm back. I took some time off, but we're back with our first episode from me taking this time off, and I have a great guest this evening. This is a young man that I met on Instagram. I guess he came across one of my posts. He reached out, we connected, and he has a great story to tell, and that I wanted to share with you all as well. So, welcome, Brendon Brown, to the Malik's First Job Podcast. I'm gonna have him tell you all about his background and the mission that he's on, and I'm just gonna let him share everything. Go ahead, Brandon. Tell him about yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Brendon Brown. I'm the host of the Development podcast. Got a clothing line with the same logo and the same name. It's like a merch, but it's more of like its own identity that still spreads about motivation, positivity, such as my podcast. That's the same thing. And also, I have a book, 2 books called Do You Need Any Help? And this is my first book I published. And this is my second book I published, Brilliant Ambitions, that talks about how to find and build your skills. And this book talks about how to find your inner you. So everything I do that I align myself in, rather if it's the podcast, the clothing line, or the books, I try to make sure that it aligns with purpose, how to build yourself up, and just basically how to critique yourself and understand who can I be. Like, for example, if I want to be Brendon Brown, how can I be Brendon Brown? Or, for example, if your name is not, I don't know what it is. I'm just using this for example. If your name is Joe P., if you're trying to figure out how to be Joe P., then Joe P. has to figure out the steps. How can you figure out the steps? Listen to people that can, like me or others, or like even Mr. Phillips here, that can help you be inspired to going towards your goal. Rather if it's your dream, rather if it's a small goal, big goal, no matter what it is, the main thing is help you move forward.
Wow. So what got you started on this mission, this quest of motivation and empowering others?
Well, this all started because of the fact that I got inspired by this podcast called the No Job Podcast. It was hosted by Nige Simmons, and also was another podcaster before him, Al Levi Simmons. And he posted a lot of content back in 2020 and 2021 about motivation, things like that. He's from the same area as me, North Charleston, South Carolina. He currently hasn't been consistent with his podcast like how he had been because of the fact that he has children now and everything. Same thing for a No Job Podcast. But both of those podcasts were good because the Purpose Pod discussed how to find your purpose, and he interviewed different guests. Same thing like what we're doing here with about purpose and talking. And then for No Job Podcast, he was mainly focused on the niche of and the topic of why your job isn't worth it and why you should pursue your passion. Really wish he still continued with that show, because now with AI, it would have been good to really hear his perspective with AI currently right now in 2024. Everything. But at the time, that was 2021, so AI wasn't really as big as how it is now. But they inspired me. Watch Gary Vee's content a little bit about how he said that your job in college is not always the way. I also watched this YouTuber called Jordan Green. He talked about how college is a scam, and not necessarily in a way where like it's just full on scam, but like in a way where it's not for everyone. And same thing for 9-to-5 jobs. When I looked at all that year, that beginning half of 2021, I thought the idea of, okay, I've been doing podcasts for almost a year since 2020. It's 2021. I need to figure out my niche. So I figured out my niche, and it was self improvement. Because before I did self improvement, I've been just all over the place. When I first started March 21st, 2020, I started with a Batman Arkham video talking about video games, this and that, because I'm a big guy. I'll be funny here. I'm into the nerd culture a little bit. I'm into, the gospel. I'm into civil rights. I'm into everything. And I just made a bunch of different episodes about different stuff. Like I had a episode about God. I had an episode about um in May of 2020, what happened with George Floyd. I have another episode that was motivational. I had a episode that was talking about video games. But what made me new at the beginning anyway that I knew was self improvement was that I used to always start out my podcast episodes with motivational videos at the beginning to let people
Mm-hmm.
be inspired before they listen to whatever topic I was talking about. So to get to the point and answer your question, how this all started was because in 2021 I decided that that was my niche. After watching all those YouTubers, especially watching like Jose Zinka, Alpha M, and Alice Costa, those fashion type self improvement YouTubers I was watching way before I was a podcaster back in 2015 all the way to like currently now, they really inspired me to move forward and do what I do now.
Wow, wow, wow. And you've written a couple books as well.
Yes,
I
sir.
know you showed them. You guys showed them earlier. Can you show
Yeah,
them again real quick?
yeah. I'll show them again. You want me to explain a little deeper about these books?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how this started right here, do you need any help? This all started because back to once again to that Al Levi Simmons guy, the Purpose Pod man. When I watched his show, I was a dedicated listener ever since August 2020. And literally a year later, around that time, but a few months later, it was like December 2021, he interviewed me on his show. And he told me after the show, because after we finished the episode recording, we had like a little authentic conversation after. He told me, "Hey, Brendon, if you want to be a successful motivational speaker, a successful YouTuber, content creator, whatever it is you're doing, you need to have a book out first. That's the main thing. Have a book, man." He said, because that can help you build awareness, brand awareness, help you build an authenticity or like a key. I can't know the word how to really say it, but like a key basically to unlock that door to
Right,
go in towards people, even at schools, buildings, everywhere, and they'll see a book, they'll know that you're reliable. You have like a little that's like a little resume of what you're doing. I'm just paraphrasing what he was saying now.
right,
And so I took that into heart because I said, you know what? That was the moment I knew I needed to work on a book because, like I said, once again with the podcast, how I knew the niche of it, same thing with my book. I knew a year prior that it was already there. It was already foreshadowed because during COVID in 2020, before I even watched this podcast, I used to I used to write different stuff. I used to write
hmm,
stories. I used to write what I've been doing daily, journaling in the house, what I was doing. I used to sometimes write about my goals and like make paragraphs about what I want my future to be. And
right,
all that inspired me to figure out, okay, let me work on this book. So I've been working on this since about 2021. I keep thinking it's 2020, but I can't remember exactly if it was 2020 or 2021. But around that
right,
time, I did start working on it, and I kept on going till eventually I finished publishing it in November of 2023. And one thing to remind you here, and I'll tell the audience here, this started out from me being a freshman. I started writing this book as a freshman, and then
wow,
eventually I finished it as a senior. And
nice,
then once this got published, it was a blessing because I was working on this and this back to back. How this got started was because of the fact that in 2022, because I was so amped and hyped, I was excited because I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan. So when they had won a championship, I said, you know what? I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I said, let me just start writing another book because I felt so motivated and inspired because I was glad to see my favorite basketball team that went through adversity for like 3 years at the time win a
right,
chip 22. So I said, working on this book. And ever since I was working on this was at the start. This was like at the end of my sophomore year. So that was like the summertime when I was in my transition to being a junior.
right,
I was working on this book. Then eventually I finished working on this book around late 2024.
mm,
No, early 2024, excuse me.
yeah,
And once I finished it around early 2024, it got published in March 21st, 2024.
okay,
That's why I published this book. And also a little, idea here that nobody don't really know probably. I told my audience this, but people right now who's listening to this will know. There's a reason why I published them the dates I published them because this was published on my birthday. which was November 18th, 2023. I was born in 05 that same day. This was
Okay.
published March 21st, 2024. And I referenced this earlier. If nobody didn't catch this fast, I said March 21st, 2020 is when I started the podcast. And it's kind of funny because 4 years later, I released this on the 4-year anniversary. So anytime
Nice.
I do stuff, I try to make sure they align with a date that's really significant to something important. I try to make it very honorable. But to
Right.
get back to here with the books, like I say right here, this book, Do You Need Any Help? Is to help you. If you're lost in life, how to figure out how to just develop yourself, grow, and figure out how to find the inner you. It's self-improvement one-on-one advices. It discusses everything like finding your child, finding your purpose. I also got another chapter right here that's all right here in the beginning part. It talks about different things, financial literacy, talk
Hmm.
about lifestyle. I talk about fighting your challenges. I don't know if y'all can see it because the camera kind of angles funny. It also
Yeah.
talks about finding your purpose, all of this. And then this book here, if you already found your purpose, then this book here is just to help you increase yourself, find them skills. And not skill as in just handyman skills or like skills as in content creation. I'm talking about skills as in the inner work, the inner you. And
Wow.
that talks about the inner you, but this is inner you 2.0 because it don't just help you building your inner skills, but helps you find that mental capability of working through yourself. Like I got a chapter right here that talks about criticism. I talk about
Hmm.
another chapter right here that talks about people. I got another chapter here that explains about your addictions, how you gotta let go of your addictions. I talk about different things on there to help build your inner self to keep on being motivated to do what you can do. We're not perfect at all. All of us as human beings, even me, we make mistakes, but to make ourselves do better or to increase ourselves to do better, that should be
Right.
a good thing. We should be grateful enough to want to help ourselves do better and not just, sit around and don't do anything at all, because at the end of the day, yes, we have that challenge. And one thing that my pastor always said, and I agree with this too, people like to say, oh, I'm human, but at the end of the day, you can be human, but there's no limit when you put God first. I'm just saying that from a faith-based perspective there.
Right.
But that's all I just want to do to say to cover that aspect of what you were telling me about the books.
Yeah. So I know, like I said, are you still in college or you graduated already?
I already graduated high school, so I'm about to get into college later this year in
Oh, so
August.
so so these are books you wrote in high school.
Yes, in high school. Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So so for a person like it gets within your peer group, right? Someone in high school transitioning into college. And oftentimes that's when kids are still trying to figure out, what they want to do, what they want to major in, what kind of career they want to pursue. How does one find their purpose at such a young age?
Well, that's easy, man. Look at people your age. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like not necessarily like telling everybody you gotta find somebody your age. And when you say young people, it gotta be somebody your age. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, it could be somebody older. But sometimes when another young person looks at another young person being successful, it inspires them to keep on going forward. And that's the
Okay.
point of, my podcast and my stuff is to help young men, really teenage boys as well, but mainly young men from the ages of 18 to 25 to grow and develop. Young women as well, but mainly the young men because there needs to be more men as leaders because right now in the current state we're living in, and it's not just even with African Americans. People that say, "Oh, it's African American." It's not just African Americans. I always believe it's everybody. We're having a lot of bit of young men now who are not being as masculine as they should, and not masculine as in like lifting weights or trying to be deep voice or macho. Masculine as in having the right mindset. And as a man, especially as a man of God, for me personally, you got to have the right mindset when you're doing things. You got to have the right balances. You got to know what to do. You got to know how not to put, how can I say this? You got to know how not to put so much things as weakness, money, lust, power. That cannot be what you need to be successful. Because at the end of the day, that lust, that money, that power will all go away. Don't
Okay.
chase that. Don't chase perfection. Chase improvement. That's why I talk about self improvement. Because you got to chase improvement. I'm not saying that your money isn't worth it, but at the end of the day, money is just something that you can always make. You can always
Mhm.
make it through your purpose or maybe through your job. But at the end of the day, you got to build the inner you. I know I was a little bit deep there, but to answer your question there, how they can get inspired in their purpose, just know that you gotta listen to somebody who's on age with you or maybe older that has that tells the truth and says it authentically and they're really authentic. And just know that your purpose doesn't align with money. And I also made a quote the other day ago when I was interviewing somebody on my podcast recently about this. I'm gonna find the quote real quickly for y'all so I can pull it up right now and tell y'all the quote. I was saying that, excuse me, it's not on here, it's on threads. Excuse me a second. While we're doing that, I'll just make a little brief conversation here. We were just talking about that and how our purpose is defined because it's a divine thing. I always believe that purpose is a divine thing. And this is my quote right here. I put my normal job or your normal job, whoever it can be, whoever has a normal job. And if they don't have a normal job, I'm going to still say it this way. Normal jobs pay the bills, but the passion pays the bills of fulfillment. And that's right here. I got it right there. That's on threads.
Okay.
So, yeah, your job, your normal job may pay the bills, but your purpose pays the bills of fulfillment. And that's the
Okay.
thing you got to know, especially if you're a young person. Know that, yes, maybe some of you may have to work 9 to 5 jobs to start out, and some of you may don't have to. Some of you may can just get there overnight and really grow if you know how to do content the right way. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, just know that the job will always pay the bills, but the purpose will bring pay that bill fulfillment. And the purpose will pay the bill too. Because if it grows enough to where you can just live your purpose, then live your purpose. But just know that
Mhm.
your purpose is paying two bills. Normal
Okay.
bills, bills of fulfillment. But the normal job, the normal 9 to 5 one, is just paying normal bills because you're not fulfilled. You're just living there to go through the motion. You're just going there to work, just to go through the emotions. You're not
Mhm.
living in peace. You're living in sorrow and sadness. But see, when you follow your purpose, you live in joy, you live in happiness, and you live in so much peace. And that's
Okay.
that's the thing. That's the thing I wanted to say to answer your question there. So there you go.
Okay. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit more about the inner work he was talking about, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it was like when you said your first book was kind of guiding people towards their purpose, and then once they achieved that, then they graduate to the second book where they start to learn how to further grow that purpose, and
Yes.
that's through doing the inner work. So,
Mhm.
what kind of inner work are you talking about?
The inner work I talk about is, which I just referenced here earlier, is the inner work in your personality. That's what I talk about the inner work. When I say the inner you, that book, that first book, just really discusses how to find where I need to go in life. I know I'm just saying that same thing where I need to go, but to go a little bit deeper here, let's just say I'm a person that don't know my purpose, like you say. Let's say I'm a person that's watching YouTube. I'm watching somebody. They're telling me that this book is going to help me, right? I don't know what I want to do. Maybe if I look at this book, it may help me. Okay, I'm looking. So I'm figuring out right now on financial literacy. Oh, it says that maybe having $20 is the best way. Always having $20, never losing any money. Know how to save your money, know how to manage it. Okay, maybe if it talks about, I don't know, let's see if it talks about how to take care of myself, how to make sure that sometimes you need personal space. Maybe it talks about how I need to go through challenges to help build myself up. Sometimes maybe people just say bad things. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a test to help improve who you are, to stay strong even when there's adversity. And that's the way I'm saying about finding inner you, figuring out how to just keep on moving, even when it's good or bad, just to stay tall, not stay stagnant, but just stay tall and grow. Even though there's rocks trying to hit you, you got to continue, just keep going up, no matter what. So that's to answer that question. That's how I would explain it to you. Specifically, even that first book, that's how I would explain to you. And then, like I said, that second one just expands it even more and goes deeper into other avenues of what you should go through.
Okay. Okay. Are there like any type of practical steps people can take to do that inner work and to find that purpose?
Oh yeah. The practical steps I would say would be to mostly just give me a second here so I can really go deeper here because I know you're asking that question there. Practical steps. It would be to just, like I say, surround yourself with the right people. That's one example I can give in that book that talks about. It talks about how to save your money because I'm a big advocate for always saying that if you at least have $20 in your pocket, that's good, because that's one thing about me personally. Even if I'm broke, I would always keep $20 in my pocket because you don't know when you might need that. I say that for teenagers now. For adults, that's a different story. For me personally, now that I'm an adult, I would say that's kind of different now. I would say that maybe you may need I have like maybe $100 still left in your pocket. You don't know if you might need
Right.
that, especially if you want to help the homeless or something like that, or you want to, you had to buy something that's in cash. You got that, because I always am a big advocate for always collecting physical money just as well as collecting neural money. And see,
Okay.
people they sometimes get confused because they always be like, "Oh, I always have my money on my card," but yeah, that's good. But sometimes you may need to pay it in physical too. Vice versa, you may need to pay it in digital. So that's kind of a practical step there too, like always having some backup change and never being broke.
Hmm.
And then, like I say, when you go through challenges, just know that it's nothing to worry about. It's just something you're going through for the moment. So, like for example, if you see that bully, it may hurt, but don't react to it. You know what you need to do? If they hit you, defend yourself. Or either if they keep on getting worse, then you can tell somebody that they're harassing you.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to get there with these books, just to help them be inspired to develop themselves. It may not go too deep and practical as you say it in that way, but
Hmm.
eventually the stuff I say could probably be a stepping stone to help them find that practical step. But I like what you say there, because that's a new improvement I need to make my books. I need to make it more into a practical step, because it's everything now. I'm not saying that it's just saying the basic stuff. It's saying deep stuff, but I want to
Hmm.
make sure that you're right. It should be practical so they can know through steps, not just like, oh, okay, save my money. How do I save my money? Which I did go deep into that. I said $20, but you know, sometimes you gotta go a little deeper. So I like what you said there with that question.
Yeah, because sometimes people need to be guided. You
Yeah.
know, this is one way to say, okay, well, as they say, it's better to show them. I guess what instead of giving a man a fish, show them how to fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say,
Yeah.
okay, you get the reel, you get the worms, the hook, and you kind of walk them through it, then they can do it themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have like practical steps, okay, this is what you need to do. Prayer, meditation, this, reading books, this type of stuff. You kind of give them some steps on how they can actually achieve that goal, right? To help to
Yes.
help to improve themselves. The same
Yes.
way I had the steps you had to take, right? To
Yeah.
say, you know what, you were inspired by the podcast. Then from there, you say, you know what? Because a lot of people, like I've found, you have people who just collect information, right? They'll
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, yeah, I checked out Gary V. I watched this podcast. I read this book. Okay, now what you doing with it? Nothing, right? They just have a whole lot of information, but they're not actually applying it, right? So application is the most important part of gaining all that information, right? So knowing how, and sometimes people don't know how to apply it, right? They need to know, okay, step one, step two, step three, and so on. And again, you can help them find that path.
And that's so true. And like you say, there some people will just go on it and collect it and not follow anything that they do. And then, like
Yeah.
you say, sometimes they cannot understand it, because I'll be real with you. I used to be like that too at first when I was in my rookie phase of podcasts and things like that. I would collect the stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily do it in the right way. So in a
Hmm.
way, I had to learn on my own way of doing it. Like I referenced earlier, I told
Hmm.
y'all I had to find it the Brendon Brown way. Like I said, Joe P. You had to find it Joe P. way. You have to find it your way, because not everybody is the same. And
Right.
I realized that because when I looked at Jordan Green, No Job Podcast, Gary V, Purpose Pod, this YouTuber, this content creator, I can take all their advice, yes, but
Hmm.
eventually it has to be a way that works for you. And even
Exactly.
even even with my books, I like the fact that I have these books, but mainly if they look at my YouTube channel, I feel like it will go a little more deeper,
Okay.
because when I'm on a YouTube video, I can tell you what's going on. Even if it's a new published video, at least it'll be more up to date. Not saying that my books won't be up to date. My books should be dated. I mean, not dated. My books should be still relevant to maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I'm just saying, when I'm releasing videos, at least that'll be more relevant than these books, because those books be published like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and then if I'm saying save $20, because at the time I was writing that before inflation. Now with
Right.
inflation, it's more important to carry more than $20 in your pocket. But hey,
Exactly.
it's all right, because you know I didn't know at the time that inflation came, but that's why I have different sources of trying to spread my information, and that's why, like we referenced earlier, everybody's different. So difference is that main theme word when it comes to following what you need to do to grow and be successful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, where do you see yourself? I know you mentioned about 5, 10 years from now. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Like, where do you want to be?
Right now, where I want to be at in the next 5 to 10 years is that I want to see my YouTube channel grow and be successful. I want to see my books be great. By then, I want to be at least a 4 or 5 time author by then. I
Okay.
also want to be able to work with Sergeant Ford because I know Sergeant Ford said he wanted to do some films, and I said I would like to collaborate with him. So hopefully I can collaborate with him on films and different things like that.
Yes.
I want to be able to at least have enough um, growth in sales through my business, through my clothing brand as well. I want to be able to expand that too. I want to be able to grow so big that eventually I can have my own course and then I can monetize that as well
Okay.
and teach people how to do that. And then eventually from then, I want to be able to have my own house as well so that I can live on my own, or if it's an apartment, have an apartment, one or two, live in my house and just, work hard and to do my goals and continue to work on my passion. So mainly just those things and get a nice house or apartment and just live peace, man, and continue to just put God first, as always, like what I'm doing now.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I got to shout you out because to be just a recent high school graduate with all these accolades, you got 2 books out, you got your podcast, you got your clothing brand, and and you're still looking to grow even further, right?
Yes, sir.
So I definitely got to salute you on that, man. Tell you, man,
Thank you.
keep growing. Keep
Yes, sir.
growing, keep working, keep grinding, keep working on improving yourself and trying to and working to inspire others, because you never know who's watching, right? You may see and think, okay, well, I'm just doing this, it's kind of small and not getting that much attention, but all you need is 1 or 2 people who see it, and it's like a snowball effect,
Yeah.
and it just keeps moving, and you never know who you may touch. So you just got to keep on working,
Yes,
keep doing
sir.
what you're doing.
Yes, sir. That's so true. And then also too to add on what you're saying there, I want to add on a little bit of my accolades though that I don't really mention on my interviews that much or on the podcast is that I also won first place for doing digital video production this past year for the FBLA State Leadership Conference. That's what
Oh
it
wow.
was down here at my high school, Worcester, because that was my
Nice.
second year being in FBLA club. Because I was in there last year, and I
Hmm.
had actually won second place for state last year, and I had won no, excuse me, I won third place for state last year, and then I had won second place for districts last year in the FBLA conference for 2023. But this year they didn't have districts, so they only had states. So this year I had first place, and I was glad. I also made a video about that, and I
Okay.
want to mention it briefly on this podcast. Is that basically on my podcast when I reference that I have an episode that's probably already out about that as of now, and I talked about how that helped me into my video creation because I've always done videos, because during 2020, I was doing YouTube and then I got burnt out and stopped it. And I came back in
Hmm.
2020 to redo it in September 2020. And I stopped again to rephase myself. And then 2021, I started making videos, motivational videos. And then from all the way from January 2021, November 2021, I made motivational videos while also making audio podcast episodes. But then eventually I launched the podcast through video format in 2022. So I canceled that first channel and just keep that podcast going through YouTube as well. But to get to the point here, that helped me build my content creation because when I keep getting confused. When I got second place in districts, I was
Hmm.
so upset because if I wore a suit, because they had a criteria, you had to wear a suit and stuff. If I wore a suit, I probably got first place. Then when I
Wow.
got third in state, I felt disappointed. I was like, I had a suit this time. I'm what messed me up. And I was like, oh man. So ever since then, I was just improving hard on my videos, trying to do better edits, great edits. And ever since then, that helped me a lot because now I'm doing well. And especially since I won first place, because I keep looking at that trophy. I'm going to bring it up here. I keep looking at that trophy. When I got that first place, that really put a spark, not just on me, but on my YouTube channel because once I put first place on there, it made me understand that, okay, not saying that trophies and accolades dictate who you are, but sometimes when you work hard through different challenges, different adversities, like I see in my book, it
Hmm.
can really help build you up. And that helped
True.
build me up because now my channel is growing slowly but surely good because of the fact that those trophies help me to figure out how to manage my YouTube channel, how to make better videos to make it more interesting. So that's
Right.
what I really want to say for that. And I'm gonna give you a quick second. There, I'm gonna show the trophies.
Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens, is an excellent resource to get your children started on understanding the basics of financial literacy. This book, which is set in Brownsville, Brooklyn, about a young man who gets his first job and then shortly thereafter sits down with his dad to learn how to manage his money. There are several topics that are covered within this work, such as paying yourself first, disciplining your spending, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, creating multiple sources of income, as well as the importance of being charitable. So again, if you want to get your children started on understanding finance and becoming responsible adults, we highly recommend that you purchase the book, Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens. So please visit maliksfirstjob.com to get more information. Peace. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google products, and more within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Let's create something together. Follow the link in the show notes and let Buzzsprout know that we sent you, and that'll get you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan and help support our show. Thank you very much, and let's be great podcasting together. Peace.
So just want to show this is the first place for this is the second place for districts back in 2023. This is the third place for state back in 2023. That's just a timer. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
That was just an alarm. My bad. And then this is the first place right here. So,
Okay.
Yep. So I really am grateful and blessed for that because I worked so hard for that. And I wish they had a medal again, but it was all right. They had that. I'm grateful for that anyway. But I'm just glad that it worked out because I could have told I won first place this year because I had the confidence. I had the belief that I know I was going to do it. And when I went in there, I had a full-on suit. I was prepared this time. No half suit, no jacket, and no collar shirt without no jacket, no pants, and no. Everything was full-on business attire. I spoke with confidence. So I know they picked me because I had charisma and enthusiasm and stuff. And so they had liked that. And I said, well, there you go. I was like, hey. And they were like, yeah. I was like, there you go. And boom, I got it in there and did a good job. So grateful for that. Because I tell you, man, whatever you go through is only for a moment. Because I felt bad for it in 2023. I felt discouraged. I didn't even want to go back to the club. But I said, you know what? It's my senior year. Let me go back one more time and restart over. They keep telling me to go. I said, let me go, and it helped out. I might be ranting here a little bit too much, but last year in 2023, when I was a junior, I was the president of the club, and it was my first time going into the club because that was my first time going back in school since COVID when we were shut down in 22. So that was good. And then I didn't come back as a president the next year because I was just discouraged. So I came later, half the school year, to actually go in the FBLA again. And glad I got my redemption story because that's a little redemption story I put in. I wish I had filmed all that. I filmed it, but I wish somebody would have filmed me as the documentary because that would have been a little redemption story there. But it worked out well, and I'm just grateful for that. So the lesson I learned from that is just that, you just got to keep on going. And I know I keep ranting that, but even if it looks bad, you'll eventually get the blessing because it may look like you can't get it from afar, but then later on you get it. Because like I say, it took me one whole year to reinvent myself with my videos and reinvent myself with getting that first place.
Yeah, yeah. And real quick, for those that don't know, FBLA is the Future Business Leaders of America, right? It's a program that's held at several high schools across the country that helps to, mentor and motivate, the future leaders and business minds, right? It's going to take over this country. And you're looking at one right here, Mr. Brendon Brown,
Yes,
right?
sir.
I can't even say future because you're doing it now, right?
Yes, sir.
You're going through the process now. So for
Yes.
those people that want to follow you and find you, where can they find you online?
Well, they can find me on Instagram. It's at influencerb, INFL_UENCERB. You can find me on Twitter at Brownstay100. That's also my Snapchat if you need to figure that out. I also have TikTok. That's the same thing as well, InfluencerB. I also have my YouTube channel, which is called Development Pod. I also got my website, which is www.brendon-brownstay100.com. And then you also have some other social media platforms that I have, but it's all my link tree. If you go to my Instagram, it has a link to my link tree and everything like that. So that's all I have for that.
Yeah, so definitely, this is, a powerful mind, a young mind that's going places, right?
Yeah, and
Young
it's
man,
all.
just a
My
young man
bad.
recently graduated high school, already published 2 books, has his
Yep.
podcast channel, he has his clothing line, and is just doing it up all over social media. So this is someone that you definitely got to pay attention to, right? Your young people out there that want to find a way to do it, definitely reach out and connect with this man right here. He can give you the inspiration and the guidance to help you get to where you want to be, right? So any
Yep.
closing words that you want to share, Brendon?
Well, the last thing I just want to say here is that this all started because my friend Jeremiah Patterson, he told me about what a podcast was. It's funny, but it all started just by one dialogue. I met him. Hopefully, I don't keep you too long here, but I met him around November of 2019. Excuse me, not 2019, excuse me. November of 2019, I met him. I was in 8th grade then. I heard about this guy named Jeremiah Patterson. They were all talking about him around the school. Like, this guy, he got podcasts. He got podcasts about politics. Oh, it's nice. I was like, who is this? I was like, Jeremiah. I said, okay. I said, what's a podcast, man? He said, well, podcast, Brandon, is basically like a YouTube channel, but in audio format. I said, okay. I said, I don't want to do it because I said, I asked relatives, I told my relatives at the time, I was like, you think I should do a podcast? They say, no, don't do a podcast, do a podcast. You don't copy what other people do. Because at the end of the day, see, when you're raised with small-minded individuals, you got to know how to handle them. And see, that's what happened with me. I was raised under small-minded individuals, no offense to them. But I was raised under small-minded individuals that didn't see bigger and better things. And that's another thing I just want to talk about. If you have time for that, I'm going to get to that. But with that, I was just hesitant. I was like hesitant on trying to delay it or go away from the podcast. I was hesitant on not even doing a podcast, I should say. And I was like, I don't want to do a podcast. So I was like, and I kept feeling something. Like I don't know why. I keep feeling like it was God telling me to do it. So you know what? February of 2020, I had started an Instagram page just before I had the influencer page. It was like a Wavy King of Respect page. Then in March, when we were shut down for COVID, that was 8th grade year. That was our last week after we left when COVID was coming in. I recorded my first episode that weekend, made that first episode March 21st in 2020. That's when I made the first episode. And boom, the success came. And I was grateful, man. I was grateful and I was blessed and excited to just do it. And now that I started that, look where it came from. And now look who I am. And like I said, even with all that adversity I went through, there was more adversity that I went through actually. Because like I said, referencing earlier with the small-minded individuals, I had some relatives. I had my grandmother. I had my aunt. I had some other people questioning, like, "Oh, you're doing this podcast. You shouldn't be doing this podcast full time. This podcast isn't going to help you. This and that, this and that." And then eventually, me and my mother had a discussion. She apologized and said that, "Oh, I apologize. I'm gonna support what you do," because I heard a lot of people say that this content creation thing was working out. That happened a year later after I started the podcast. She apologized for that. Slowly, my dad started supporting me once I had these books came out. My aunt started supporting me too, but even though sometimes she just off and on. And then my grandmother, she doesn't understand because she's older. So I guess she supports it, but she doesn't. So in a way, I can't know how to describe that. How I can say overall, my relatives, though, those people I mentioned, is that basically when you come from a different time, you don't understand it. So you can give them that excuse too. But to a certain degree, once they don't see you do this for like a few more years now, they don't see you doing done it for a few years now, they should already understand, okay, I need to support this young man to see what he's doing. Even though it may not be working out now, support him later on because at the end of the day, the same way how you want somebody to work a boring 9 to 5 job, you should be motivating them to do their purpose as well. Because at the end of the day, that 9 to 5 job will be there. You don't want to regret your whole life working for somebody where you know you can do something that's better. You can work under somebody that's even better, or maybe work under yourself, depending on what field you're going to. Now, if you're acting, of course you're going to work under somebody, but if you're a businessman, you work for yourself. But to get to the point here is pursuing your purpose. And so, man, that's the main thing that I just wanted to say. I went through adversity as well, dealing with them and them not supporting me. And even till this day, they still question sometimes what I be doing. But I don't pay that no attention because at the end of the day, like those basketball players do, especially like Kobe Bryant, keep that mama mentality. Steph Curry, he ignored those people, those haters. He keep on going. They keep on doing what he's doing. That's why the Warriors, Golden State Warriors, and Steph Curry is my favorite basketball player in the team because they go through so much adversity, but they become the best once they don't go through it. And I'm just like them because I'm like an NBA player in myself when I look at my life. It's like I get fouled all the time sometimes, and people just underestimate me, but they don't understand I'm doing great things. And not just even on the bad stuff, I have great people too that support me, friends, some other relatives that are actually good that really support me, like my cousin. I got a lot of good people that's cousins, really. I got a lot of good people that support me, but I got a lot of people that dislike me too. And that's part of life and that's part of your journey. You're going to deal with haters and you're going to deal with lovers. You're going to deal with people that love you, people that hate you, and you just got to know how to ignore both of it, like I referenced earlier on this interview. So that's what I wanted to mention there. And that's all I just really wanted to say there. And one more thing I just want to say here, audience. I know y'all probably laughing at me. When I had a friend, the same friend I referenced earlier, Jeremiah Patterson, when he moved from South Carolina to Texas in 2021, it was a lot for me. I was alone, and so I didn't have my friend no more because we used to talk a lot every day, man, especially during COVID. And that was the time when COVID was still at its peak. He was out there in Texas having his fun and going out there exploring, being glad to be out there because that was his hometown because he was born in Charleston, lived in Charleston, moved to Texas around 10, came back to Charleston in 2019. That's how I met him. And then he moved back to Houston. I never even knew he lived in Houston before until he told me because, like I tell you, we just met in 2019. And so after he gone, I just started saying, well, hey, let me make some more new friends online. It wasn't the same. There were nights where I was lonely. There were nights where I was dealing with a lot of adversity, especially my relatives still in my ear telling me, stop doing what you're doing, stop doing what you're doing. Just go do something. Why are you sitting in this house all day? Dealing with that and also dealing with abandonment of a friend who never used to call me. And at the time, he only called me when he needed stuff. Like, oh, Brandon, I need help with my podcast. I'm like, what? And you did it longer than me. But all through that, I built up, like I say, adversity. And that's kind of like a little bit of trauma there. But I built it out. All those negative stuff in my ear, I was able to pluck them out. I went through a lot at that time, and it was really a lot. But now I'm older, I'm more mature, and now experienced. I can tell you, I don't care. I'm human, and I still feel it, but I don't care no more. And even my friend Jeremiah, he apologized. My cousin Henry, he apologized too, because at the time they both were not as consistent as friends for me, and or should I say, as just reliable people. And now we're back to being buddies. They still be busy with what they're doing, but at the end, we're back to being better friends. And you and me now, I still don't have people that much that call besides my friend Mike and Murray. But it all went out well. And then, like I said, later on when I met Mike and Murray, he was dealing with the same thing as me in 2023. And so when I helped him out, he was going through um, depression, suicide. When he went through all that, I called him. There were nights where he was in the dark, but there were some days where he called and we talked. I read him some scriptures and I helped him out, man. And then eventually he got saved and baptized in December 2023. And now this year, he's doing way better than he did last year. And also just last year, I wasn't on the podcast as much because of the fact that I was helping him out. And I don't talk about that too much, but I just really want to say that because, you know, that taught me there too about patience. Like I wasn't mad at him, but that taught me patience, how to like, understand people's perspective and also like the Bible say, carry another one's burden. And so I carried his burden, he carried my burden. we both knew how it was not to have buddies to talk to no more because they all moved to different states because his friend moved to Texas too. But now we both got our network of people we talk to now, so it's a blessing and we still check up on each other as well. So that taught me about, friendships and how you should, understand how to be around people, but sometimes God may put you in some moments of isolation for you to develop your inner self. And all this isolation made me develop my inner self because I love to be myself, but I also love to socialize too because I'm also an extrovert as well. So, it was all tests and trials and stuff to go through to help me build who I needed to become. So I know that was kind of a long conclusion there, but I just want to let somebody know because somebody's probably watching this. I want them to understand, like, hey, you're not the only one going through anything. Your buddy right here, Mr. Brendon Brown, Influencer B, go through the same thing as you go through. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and nobody's perfect, man. Nobody not on this green earth that God made.
Exactly. So just want to thank you for sharing your story and coming on the podcast. Definitely go out and support this young man. Check out his website again, Brendon-BrownStay100.com. Check out his social media, purchase his books, and again, just support and keep growing, right? So again, thank you, Brendon, for coming on the show. And check out his merch as well.
Yes, sir.
Right? And thank you all for tuning in this week. Thank you all for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And see you all next week. Peace.
All right.
Generational wealth.